I am not Markus. A life without eating or drinking, demystifying the myth of nutrition, reveals the true freedom of the eternal being. Introduction. In July 2021, I attended a 3-day dry fast retreat organized by a man named Markus. I met this German man there, a tall, lanky figure with striking blue eyes and hair so blonde it appeared white. Several things caught my attention immediately. He was always barefoot, perpetually smiling and relaxed, tending the fire in the fireplace throughout the hours we were awake. When he arrived, he spoke in a clear, strong German accent. Please leave your cell phones. I propose total fasting, including water fasting, for these 3 days, and total silence. Almost everyone present had already attended other retreats with him. I spent the first day in a daze, wandering like a zombie. I walked through the forest, careful not to linger near certain fruit trees. The oranges seemed to speak to me. Without a watch, I let the sun guide me like the Mayans once did, governed by their sun god. My mind struggled to break from its usual patterns. I was thinking about when we would have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In this way, I managed to complete the first day. It did feel like a victorious moment. As night fell, everyone quietly went to bed. No one spoke. No one asked anything. No one even looked at me. I felt transparent. Yet I noticed that Markus, with his ever-present laughter, seemed to miss nothing. On the second day, in the middle of the morning, the heaviest man in the group quietly packed his suitcase and loaded it into his car. He approached the group where Markus stood and, breaking the silence, finally spoke. I'm going to take a drive through these wonderful places of Subashoque, a small town near Bogota, Colombia, and then I'll come back. We couldn't help but laugh quietly among ourselves as we watched him carry his suitcase. After he left, Markus began talking about food addiction. I took the opportunity to ask a few questions, partly to satisfy my curiosity and partly just to move my tongue a little. That night, just before we went to sleep, the silence broke again. Someone mentioned something they called the Matrix. Markus responded with specific answers to what, for me, sounded like an entirely foreign language. The conversation drifted into other topics as well: being, consciousness, the astral plane. I remember thinking that perhaps they had secretly smoked something psychedelic. I asked a few questions, but doing so felt like being in an astrophysics class and asking how much 2 + 2 equals. By the third day, I began to understand a little more, though if I had grasped even 20%, that would have been a lot. I realized that the issue of food was merely the tip of the iceberg, and that this seemingly eccentric man was sharing ideas and theories that, while unusual, did not seem fabricated or designed to impress. There was something undeniably authentic in his delivery. 3 days passed, and we were scheduled to break the fast on the morning of the 4th. I was genuinely happy. I had not suffered from hunger, but I missed the simple habit of swallowing. To my surprise, Markus had prepared some biscuits that we would combine with fruit and herbal tea. We ate very little because we were truly satisfied, except Markus. We took pictures and said goodbye. I returned home completely bewildered, unsure of what to say or how to explain what I had just experienced. I was surprised to find that the fasting itself had not been as difficult as I had imagined. What truly unsettled me was the unexpected discussion of topics like the Matrix and extraterrestrial life. When my wife asked, "So how was it?" I could only respond, "No idea." 3 or 4 days passed, and after recounting my experience to several people, I discovered that nearly everyone already knew of Markus. Almost all who heard his name spoke of him with a mix of curiosity and wonder, perplexed by the fact that he neither ate nor charged payment for the retreats, and that he lived with little more than a backpack. He refers to himself as an observing wayfarer. For years he has participated in retreats, though he does not organize them, nor is he particularly interested in doing so. He simply goes when someone invites him, and if in that moment it feels right to him. He owns nothing and seems entirely unconcerned by it. He once arrived in Argentina, traveled on foot to Chile, continued north through Peru, and eventually returned to Colombia, all on foot. He does not carry an ID, as he believes doing so would place him within the confines of what he calls the system. He accepts being called Markus, explaining that it is simply the name by which human beings address one another. But he always cautions he is not Markus. He does not use his social media accounts, although they are now managed by friends. He uses his mobile phone only to coordinate workshops. He says that his being is always guiding him, and that his true aspiration is for the ego never to interfere with his life. He makes his way as he walks, meeting people who admire his lifestyle, connecting with those who organize retreats on his behalf, and continuing onward. A simple feeling that it would be nice to go is all he needs to begin counting the days and preparing for the journey. Sometimes he accepts rides from passing trucks. Other times he travels by bus using contributions from previous retreats. While traveling across South America, Marcus crossed national borders by river and, during those years, presented no documentation to any official authority. Marcus's stories are almost irresistible for someone who loves to write, so I called him and said I wanted to write a book about his life. At first, he responded calmly but firmly, "No, I'm not interested. I think books are distractions. I always remind people not to follow gurus, teachers, or anyone else. Why would I write one?" I hadn't expected such a direct reply. Trying to reason with him, I said, "For the same reason you go to retreats, to teach." I think the only reason he didn't slap me was because we were hundreds of miles apart. "I don't teach anything," he said. "I tell you to doubt everything and observe. But if you don't, I don't care either." Still, I couldn't let it go. 2 days passed, and I found myself thinking constantly about how to convince him. I tried again. "Marcus, I believe your retreats could have even greater impact, more depth, if people had the chance to read some of your theories beforehand. I have no theories. I simply observe, and when someone asks, I share what I've been able to see. I don't pass judgment, and I'm not concerned with what anyone says to me." In the end, I'm still not quite sure how I managed it, but I glimpsed a faint opening of hope. "I will consult with my being," he said, "but it won't be about Marcus. It would be a guide to how to doubt, and it must end with a mandatory note. You should not have read this book. I'll call you in a few days and let you know." Somehow I had finally succeeded, and here I am, 5 days later, sitting with Marcus. We began with no address book, no phones, no plan. I proposed drafting a script on a poster board. I also suggested a question and answer format, something that could weave his observations into a coherent thread. That's how we began. I asked if he had any images or other material we could include. He replied that he did, and that if including such content would help convey the message more clearly, then yes, we could include it. So this is what I was able to draw out of him. As he made clear, it is not meant to teach, and it is not meant to be learned. Its purpose is simply to offer tools, to help you doubt everything and observe. And if you choose not to read it, you're still in time. He doesn't mind. Miguel Angel Aguado.